Welcome in. Today we're going to be going over some settings that I find particularly useful to change, and then we're going to do a brief overview of the overview settings. Alright, so start Neocom settings. The ones that I find particularly useful are invert zoom direction. So right now if I scroll down, I zoom in. If I scroll up, I zoom out. And I absolutely do not like that. That just feels so counterintuitive. So that is pretty nice, for me at least. Now if you scroll down, zoom out. Scroll up, you zoom in. In gameplay, auto target back. This is interesting. So basically what happens is if anything, either player or NPC targets you, your ship will automatically try and lock onto that. I find this particularly useful, especially if I'm hauling stuff. I find it useful just to be able to see when someone is targeting me. You get like the locking on sound, which gives you a little bit of an audio cue instead of just the yellow box on the overview. The open radio menu with. So currently, you left click to turn around. You also left click to open this radio menu. And I find that incredibly irritating, as I'm sure you've seen if you've watched my videos so far. If you change this to the right mouse button, then you don't have to worry about that. Now I can just zoom around. I won't have the weird radio menu happening. And then you can right click, and this works in here too, for the radio menu. So you can dock, warp, info, align to, track, look at, like all of your stuff is in here. And the nice thing about the radio menu is it updates in real time. So like if you're in the middle of warp, like you won't be able to hit dock, but if you use the radio menu, once you stop warping, you can automatically go into the dock. It'll highlight and you'll be able to click on it, which is super useful sometimes. And now for dueling, auto reject invitations. Unless you are looking to duel people, I generally just prefer to keep this on auto reject, because you'll get a lot of people that will try and duel you, especially if you're like in a hauler or something, just to hope that you'll just click yes to get the menu out of the way, and then you are going to get blown up. And those are the basic like 4 things that I always make sure I change like immediately when I start up a new character. Find them super useful like that. Now for overview. So this overview window, you get some of the basics. There's no targets right now. Mining, there's nothing because we're into Dixie. Warp 2 shows a bunch of stuff. There's all the moons and all that. So if you go into this little 3 dots, go into open overview settings, you can get super duper in depth with this. So for example, you see this little dot here? We go into targets. It removes that so you'll only see certain things. That's what bracket filter is for. Your basic filter is what shows up in this list. Your bracket filter is what shows up on the screen. So especially I find this useful. I have on my main character a targeting one for NPCs and capsuleers. And I have it so that the drones don't show, just so that there's less clutter on the screen, which isn't super useful for most of the time, but it is useful when you're trying to target certain things. It just makes life a little bit easier. So you can edit this and go really in depth, where you can choose what you want to include and not include. There are definitely overview settings that you can find online. One of my fellow content creators called Nth Dimensional, NTH Dimensional, they have a wonderful overview settings video if you want to go and check that out. I'm not going to even pretend to know everything. I've set mine up so that it works for me, and I'm going to show you real quick how to make like a separate overview. So we're going to call this docking. For filter, we are going to start with warp to dock, and we can show all brackets, that's fine. So now you'll just have the stations, and that is a preset one. If, for example, you wanted, for some reason, stations to show up in your targeting window, you can also click on something, like this station here, and if you right-click on it, add station to overview, and now you're going to have stations in your targeting window. And then if you don't want that, you can remove them. So you can kind of go through and edit things as you'd like. And this is just a very quick overview to kind of explain what's going on. And one thing I also want to mention is appearance. This lets you change the color of things. I particularly for the pilots at war with your corporation. For whatever reason, my seizures really don't like the red blinking. So when I have, especially for faction warfare, I end up changing that to something like gold, which is a little bit easier on the eyes. Yeah, this is just a quick video. Just some basic stuff that I find super useful. Hopefully make your life a little bit better. And I will see you in the next one. I hope you're doing well. Stay radiant. Hi.
Warp drive active.